Thank you. The committee, the whole meeting of the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board for Thursday, February 6, 2025 will now come to order. The invocation tonight will be led by School Board member Darius Lannis, but he's not here. So do I have a volunteer? By Board member Nathan Russ, and the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by School Board member Emily Soleil.
Please bow your heads and pray with me. Father God, we praise you. We thank you for this wonderful day. We thank you for all the great things you are doing in the city of Baton Rouge, in this parish. We pray that you will soften our hearts tonight to hear the words that we need to hear, to do all things in your glory, Lord, and to the benefit of our children. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you, Mr. Russ, for stepping into the breach. Appreciate it. Now we'll have the roll call.
District 4, President Stewart.
Present.
District 7, Vice President Goday.
Present.
District 1, Mr. Blue.
Here.
District 2, Mr. Lannis. District 3, Ms. Powell Lewis. District 5, Mr. Lewis.
Present.
District 6, Mr. Russ.
Present.
District 8, Ms. Sule.
Present.
District 9, Mr. Martin.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Next will be item B1, the fiscal transparency report, and that is for information only and can be found in board docs. We'll move on to item C1, school presentation, and Superintendent, I'll turn it over to you.
Mr. Vice President, Madam President, members of the board, and hello to all of you here and those in the listening audience. We have with us tonight a very special young lady who's going to do a presentation about a school very near and dear to my heart because it is where I began my career as a school leader in 2005, 20 years ago. Westdale Middle School. Ms. Rimmel is doing some phenomenal things at Westdale Middle, and she's going to come up and tell us a little bit about what she's doing at Westdale Middle. And I think that's in your district, is it not, Coach Lewis? So come on down, Ms. Rimmel, and share with us the wonderful things that are happening at Westdale Middle School. Let's give her a hand, let's give her a hand, a round of applause. All right, adjust that mic if you need to. Yes.
Thank you very much. I am Ramona Rimble, principal of Westdale Middle, which I lead alongside assistant principals Andy Pizzo and Valerie Moore. I could talk about the wonderful things going on at Westdale all night, but for the sake of time, I'm going to briefly highlight a few things that we are extremely proud of at Westdale. To find out more about what's going on at Westdale, please visit westdalemiddle.org. And we welcome you all to visit. If you haven't been in a while, put it on your agenda to come and see what we got going on. One of the things that we pride ourselves on at Westdale is there being something for everyone at Westdale. We have a state-of-the-art aquaponics program that is extremely popular. We have an unrivaled foreign language academic immersion magnet program in which our students take their core courses in either French, Spanish, or Mandarin. We have a robust offering of visual and performing arts, a wide variety of high school credit courses, both elective and core, and we have a huge variety of electives, clubs, and student organizations. Last school year, Westdale Middle School hosted Louisiana State Student of the Year. We were also awarded with the Top Magnet School of Excellence Award from Magnet Schools of America, and we hosted Magnet Schools of America Teacher of the Year. In addition, our students earned 5 different district and parish championships athletically. We are a competitive group, both academically and athletically. This school year, Westdale was awarded Magnet School of Excellence again by the Magnet Schools of America, and we have been selected as a nominee for Green Ribbon Schools. A little bit of our journey. We are on a journey of continuous improvement. And our vision at Westdale is, it emphasizes continuous improvement, not just for students, but every adult, from myself on down, every single day. We work hard and we strive to get better. As you can see, post-COVID, Westdale's SPS had gone down to a D. We are now at a C, and we still have some room to grow. We have a clear direction of how we're going to continue to improve, and this year I'm looking forward to what I predict to be some exponential growth. The basic tenets of our pathway to improvement include reading, writing, inquiry, and student collaboration in every class, every day. Giving students the opportunity to process their learning through writing and through speaking, communication, discourse, and sharing of ideas. At Westdale, we use very specific instructional frameworks that include small group instruction and targeted intervention. We kind of integrated the idea of high-dose tutoring within the classroom. Our goal is to increase the effectiveness of first-time instruction so that we don't rely so much on reteaching and remediation. Additionally, at Westdale, we are very intentional about student engagement. As an educator, we often talk about developing lifelong learners, and that is impossible to do if students do not enjoy school. So we want to make sure that our students are afforded a great education, but also a fun school experience. I must say, though, that this work, while I am the school leader, this work is done by dedicated staff of leaders, teachers, paraprofessionals who are very dedicated to the growth of our students and spend countless hours every week collaborating, digging through the research and the data to develop the most engaging and rigorous instructional experiences we can possibly provide for our students. I have to give all the credit there because, as I often say, I may be the ship's captain, but I'm not doing the rowing. So I appreciate every single adult on our campus who contributes to making Westdale a place where students can get a well-rounded experience. Last but not least, I just wanted to show some pictures of our students in class engaging in hands-on and very rigorous instruction. I have tons of pictures. I love to take pictures of the stuff that we're doing at Westdale. When you come in, there's usually a slideshow showing on the big monitor in the main office. And that's just a way for us to capture a little bit of the magic that is happening. Once again, I appreciate you all giving me the opportunity to come and share a little bit about Westdale. Please check out our website and please make it a point to come and visit us. I'd like for you guys to come and see our staff, some of our teacher collaboration, as well as talk to some of our students about their experience being at Westdale Middle School. Thank you all for your time.
Ma'am, before you leave, let's check to see if there are any comments. Mr. Lewis?
I want to push my button first, okay? I want to brag just a little bit more. Is that okay?
That's okay.
You know, it's everything's well documented about post-COVID. When Ms. Rimmel took over, there had been somewhat of a slow mass exit of instructors. When the instructors that remained there had just a glimpse of what she could do, they got on the phone, called their colleagues, and said, "You need to come on back." And they did. There were so many things about school culture that was really pushed to the forefront post-COVID. Ms. Rimmel came in, immediately addressed the culture to the degree that there was a national organization last year, What was the name of that podcast?
Live School. There's a podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. You can actually, if you want to just look up Rimble and Live School, you can see that. And in addition, they did a case study. Last year, my first year as a full-time principal at Westdale, we were able to brag a little bit that we reduced major referrals by 32%. We reduced truancy by 32%. We reduced fights by 55%, all while reducing suspensions by 44%.
And that's District 5 leadership, in case y'all missed it. That's District 5 school leadership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much for all of the hard work you and your team have done, despite the best efforts of Coach. But thank you for all the work you've done, and it's very impressive. Just for the knowledge of our audience and people who may be tuning in, how many students does Westdale have?
548.
548. And what is the average, what is the number of economically disadvantaged students in your class?
87%.
87%. So the kind of changes that you've made and the improvement that you're showing is outstanding, given the student body that you have. This is not a magnet school. This is not a school that is selective or anything like that, but you are making the changes and you are making meaningful changes in the lives of these kids. So thank you very much, both to you and all your faculty and all of the parents and students at your school. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gode.
I feel good. I trained you well.
Next on the agenda, an update on the OT-PT provider selection. Mr. Clements?
Good evening. Sorry. Good evening, Superintendent Cole, President Stewart, and Vice President Gode, and members of the board. I'd just like to first start off by saying thank you for this opportunity to come provide this update to you all. I'm here tonight to give an update on the EBR PSS solicitation RFP 424, which is Occupational and Physical Therapy Services. Just a few little notes. The RFP began advertising on December 19th. We hosted a pre-proposal meeting on January 15th, and we had 3 vendors in attendance. From there, the solicitation closed on January 29th, and 2 proposals were submitted. We are currently in the evaluation process, and our committee will be concluded evaluating by February 10th, which is this coming Monday. From there, the RFP committee will meet on Tuesday to discuss the final evaluations and shore up the results. And then my intent is on February 12th, next Wednesday, to notify the vendors of the intent to award and decline letter. That proposed timeline that I'm sharing with you all will allow for the final recommendation to be made to the superintendent for approval prior to the regular board meeting. What it'll do is it'll also allow, in the proposal, we have a 7-day period for protests or questions, and we'll also comply with that because we'll notify them by Wednesday, give them a full week just to go over any results or have any questions resolved. So yeah, that will give us that'll allow us then time to get it back in time for the February regular board meeting, excuse me. And we are kindly just requesting that this item be considered for board approval at the February regular meeting pending superintendent approval and board review. And thank you again for this opportunity to come and speak to you all. I'll stick around if you have any questions or comments.
Mr. Martin.
Thank you. I just wanted to express my appreciation to Mr. Clements and the staff for heeding what the board asked at the December meeting and moving very rapidly to get this on there. I know we had all been hoping to have the recommendation for the CAL for the ordinary business, but that just wasn't possible with the snow and the other things. So I appreciate you giving us the update so we're not just bringing this on the public. 2 days before the full board meeting. So thank you very much for the work you've done this month on this.
Absolutely, yeah. We're trying desperately to get it here, but with the delays, with the snow and everything like that, but we're close. We're very close. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clements. I have no other comments on the board.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to item D1, unfinished business, contract amendment with Hess. We will be pulling that item from the agenda, and I'll turn it over to Board President Stewart to.
Yes, I wanted to just give a brief comment on the particular item because our last meeting, there was a request from the district to bring us some data back in regards of trying to identify what it would really take to facilitate and do all the things that we are requesting and wanting Hess to do. And so because of certain other delays, as Mr. Clements mentioned about certain delays and times, we hadn't got that information. We had hoped to have it by today, but of course we didn't have it, and so that's the only reason why we're delaying. So we didn't want to think or have the public or anyone or even Hess to believe that we're just pushing this item down the line, but we are still awaiting for this information so that we can consciously and effectively make a good decision based on data. So that's what that is.
Thank you, President Stewart. Mr. Shamlin?
Yeah, just a point of clarification, we aren't technically pulling the item. There'll still need to be a vote tonight to do something, whether it's defer it indefinitely, et cetera.
Okay.
So we'll need to take public comment before that.
Thank you. I was unaware. Thank you. Let's see. Well, let's go, since that is the process we're going to need to do, let's start off with the public comment. Are there anybody who wish to speak on the Hess contract? Dr. Finney.
Thank you. James Finney, 8121 Oakview Drive, Ms. Stewart's constituent. If Hess does not wish to finish the contract under the terms they agreed to, then you should do a new RFQ. Thank you.
This is E1. Yeah, this is E1. Okay. Thank you. I see no online comments for this item, and as it regards to online comments, we will check before each item the public comments close, but once the public comment is closed on the online comments, we will not go back and read them. They have to be in during the public comment period. So there are none for now, so we'll now go to the board. And Mr. Lannis.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move that we move this item with our recommendation to without a date uncertain, to a date uncertain, I'm sorry. This just provides the district enough time to get all the data. That way we're not saying we're going to come back in a month and then we don't have enough data and we're just going down the same rabbit hole. So I'd like to move it without a recommendation to a date uncertain.
So we have a motion by Mr. Lannis, seconded by Board Member Martin. Are there any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct the vote?
Please vote.
Did I not join in? Yes, perfectly. Bear with us for a second with technical issues here. And maybe if I logged into the February committee of the whole instead of the January, it would work. My bad. Excuse me.
There we go.
User error.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Now we move to item 1E, extern agreement, Louisiana State University. Consideration of request for approval of an amendment to the extern agreement between East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and the Board of Supervisors of Louisiana State University and Agricultural and Mechanical College, not to exceed $115,919, to extend the agreement for 1 year to provide for up to 9 externs. Funding source, general fund. We will open this item to public comment, and the first card we have is from Ms. Storm Matthews.
Hello. Okay, so some of the principals had a few questions about this. They wanted to know how many sections would be provided per school. Would this be student teachers? And would the people coming be able to handle EBR student behavior? I had a question. We had students taking the LSU Advanced Robotics course, but it was taught by certified LSU EBR employees previously, so I'm not sure if it's the exact same program, but those EBR students were supposed to receive an LSU robotics certification when they graduated. They did not. They didn't receive anything from LSU, even though they completed the coursework. So I just want to make sure that if this is the same thing, that these students receive what they are supposed to actually receive upon completion. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you waiting to?
Good evening. Do we have a representative from Woodlawn? Can you come up? Ms. Watson?
Hi, I'm Ms. Watson. I'm the magnet coordinator at Woodlawn High School, and we currently have one LSU extern at our school. Our LSU extern teaches our robotics course and advanced robotics course. We haven't had a problem at all. For the past 4 years, LSU has provided this teacher. He comes on campus on A day and B day, so he's there every day. The robotics course is one of the foundations courses for the engineering department. The Louisiana Believes STEM pathway for engineering has 4 courses that you need to complete, and robotics is one of them. Engineering is a major industry here in our state, and the goal of our courses in this pathway is to have something for our students that they can continue their education through LSU or Southern, Louisiana Tech, whatever university they decide, and find a occupation here in the state of Louisiana. This provides a return on our investment on our students. It is fostering a relationship between these universities. It moves the students into a pathway that they can find success in. Robotics is also a growing industry here. I'm sure you're all aware that Amazon is building their big facility here, and robotics is huge there. Our Lady of the Lake Hospital is one of the first hospitals in the country to use robotic surgery, and the first in Baton Rouge. And these classes, while they are not dual enrollment, they are Louisiana certificate LSU courses. If all of these courses were dual enrollment, I think it would be too big of a burden on our school system to be able to pay for all of these dual enrollment courses. The LSU certificate is actually, it's not printed by LSU. The school is responsible for printing it. So when you finish the course, it is emailed in a PDF file to the teacher or instructor of record at your school, and you print it from there.
Thank you very much. And I know who you are, but please, just for the record, would you fill out a card after afterwards. Thank you.
Happy to do so.
Introduce yourself, yes.
My name is Frank Neubronder. I'm a professor of mathematics and the director of the Kane Center at LSU. We started the collaboration with the Pathways back in 2015 with Principal McCann at then Lee High School, now Liberty High School. And out of this collaboration came that LSU provides at the moment 25 different Louisiana STEM pathway courses. Last year, I think 2,230 EBR students took these courses, about 1,800 of them in a high school setting. So this is a substantial number of students who take these pathway courses. For the school system, since all these courses are CTE and CDF approved courses, and I think you interrupt me, it's about $400 then per student per seat. So it provides significant additional funding for the school system, for offering these courses. Now the question was about the certificate that the students are supposed to get. If you have 4 pathway courses, 4 of them, then you are eligible for a silver diploma seal from the Louisiana Department of Education. So if 4, and then every student should get, after taking 4 classes, a silver seal. If not, you better complain bitterly, because then something is very wrong. Very wrong. But it's 4 classes that the students need for a silver diploma seal and 8 classes for a gold STEM diploma seal. Now, 1,800 students, 2,200 students in total. And you can imagine these are courses like digital storytelling, introduction to computational thinking. So these are not courses where the average teacher is trained to teach this. We do our best over the summer to train EBR teachers to teach these courses. And most of the time it works, and most of the time you have then an EBR teacher who is trained to teach the courses. But sometimes it doesn't work. And then as a buffer zone, before we say you cannot take the classes, we provide an LSU graduate students who are trained to teach this course and are then supervised by teachers in the school to provide instruction. So these are these externs. At the end, for us it's an important business because we charge $50 per student per seat. You get $400 per student per seat. And now if you take a spreadsheet and you will see, for me it's a win-win-win situation. For us it's good because we can help support graduate students. I think for you it's good to help to keep the program going even if you don't have a teacher. And financially at the end I think it is not a bad deal for anyone.
So did we answer that for you?
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for all the work you and your students and grad students do for us. Mr. Board Member Lewis.
Thank you for that wonderful information. I really needed to hear that. Currently, the externs are at Liberty Magnet High and Woodlawn High. Am I correct? Yes. Okay. Liberty High has a 95% graduation rate. Woodlawn has a 77% graduation rate. Now, the schools that you mentioned that you're going to hopefully put these externs in, Baton Rouge High, and hey, I love our high-performing schools. I especially love Baton Rouge High. Well, what Ms. McCann does over there is wonderful. Same thing with Liberty. But you've got Tara, Broadmoor, and Glen Oaks. Tara has a 66% graduation rate. Broadmoor has a 58. Glen Oaks has a 56. Well, Bel Air is not one of the schools that's in the... Okay, well, I missed it. Excuse me, okay? The program started in 2015. What was the original intent of the program when it started in 2015? Was that dual enrollment? It was not dual. What was it when it started, if you don't mind me asking, sir? You can come back up.
Well, I think I'm old enough to tell a story. In 2015, 2014, I got a call from Barbara Freiberg and said, Frank, I have to talk to you, we have a problem. We have a school, a new school being built where there are big metal letters on the school building saying digital design, biomedical, pre-engineering. But the only school we have in the system right now is Scotlandville Magnet High, and they use the Project Leaderway curriculum. And we cannot have two schools in the system that have the same curriculum, two magnet schools. So we need something for Liberty, for Lee High School, some curriculum. Is LSU able to provide some engineering, biomedical, you name it, curriculum that we can teach? And that's the birthplace of the Louisiana STEM pathways. So we created a curriculum especially for Lee High School, for Liberty High School. The State Department looked at the curriculum and said, that's a wonderful curriculum. We don't want that this curriculum is only used at Liberty. And so they created in the Louisiana STEM pathways a direct product out of what happened at Liberty High School. Now, if you create introduction to biomedical sciences, introduction to computing, the big problem is not the curriculum. The big problem is the teacher. Because there are no teachers who learn this while they become teachers. So teacher training from the very beginning was the key what we are doing. And there, unfortunately, you have a lot of turnover. So we have trained 400, 500 teachers. At the moment, maybe 180 of them are still in EBR. Most of them are still teaching, but no longer in EBR. We started at Terra, we started this at many schools. The problem is to have the teacher force that is able to sustain it. If you have a revolving door of teachers who teach it 1 year and then they are gone, it's very, very difficult to create and sustain a program like this. It's not the money, because again, the courses generate money. It is the teachers and being able to keep the teachers at the school.
Thank you.
That is my, whatever it's worth, my opinion.
And I mentioned those schools that were named in this grant because it states in the presentation in the memo that it's dual enrollment, and it sounds like these courses are targeting kids who are going to be attending college. Okay, so it's not targeting kids. Yeah.
Come back to the mic, Doc.
I should have told you not to walk away. I'm sorry.
The opposite is true. You see, for LSU, and I'm from the Kane Center, we do the dual enrollment for LSU. The problem is, you can talk around it, but dual enrollment is an elitist program. We target the kids who would make it anyway. And the reason why this is, because you see, dual enrollment is a two-sided sword. If you take a dual enrollment class and you get a D, you are academically finished for the rest of your life. This is an academic death sentence if you take a dual enrollment course and end up with a D or an F. It is completely unconscionable to me how educators can put in dual enrollment courses where you have to be afraid that the student ends up with a D or an F.
Okay. Well,
for this reason, we have created the pathway courses, because the pathway courses give access to a high-quality educational experience, what we think at LSU it is, without threatening the kids with a lifelong punishment if the kid doesn't perform well. And the guidelines from Principal McCann was, when you enter my school with the pathways, you don't interfere with my academic program. You don't interfere with AP and dual enrollment. You are in charge that the kids have fun doing science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. She takes care of the academics, and we are charged that the kids have meaningful things to do, where they have a breather between their AP classes and dual enrollment classes.
Well, it's stated in our documents that it was dual enrollment.
And it's also, you see, externs, if you want, how do I say this? For a school system, before you take a permanent sub and put a permanent sub in the classroom, maybe the kids are better off if you have a qualified graduate student who serves as a sub in the classroom. And yes, sometimes they help in dual enrollment classes. In McKinley, we have a long history where we provide graduate students to help them teach their dual enrollment classes. Externs is a versatile tool for principals who know about it to plug holes they have in their teaching force. So come August and the principal doesn't know what to do, call the Kane Center and see if we have a graduate student who can help you.
Thank you. You may want to stand there, but I'm almost done. I'm out of time.
Yeah, you're way out of time.
Oh, God, wait. You didn't stop it when the doctor came back. That's what you did. No, but, and I guess I was asking that question because with where we are in our AUS, CIU schools, I'd like to see, and I know we're doing a lot in those schools, but I'd like to see some of this money spent with these hotshot graduate students or whatever they are in the schools, helping our kids in ELA and math, because that's where we are lagging as a district, is ELA and math. And without ELA and math, robotics or whatever.
And the good news is, if you want to talk to me afterwards, I can give you dual enrollment for 100% of your students, where if they do well, they get dual enrollment credit, and if they don't do well, no questions asked, it has never happened. They had a quality educational experience, but it's what we call at LSU the choice modality, where every student can take dual enrollment classes, but if they don't do well, at the end, they don't have to opt in. You take the class, you take the final, you get a letter from LSU saying, if you would have been an LSU student, you would have gotten a B+ or B- or a C+. And then the students decides, yeah, I take it. No, I don't take it.
I think that's
And with that model, I have no problems serving every student in EBR with this model, because I know I do not ruin a single student's life with this dual enrollment setup.
Thank you. I'm going to turn myself off now because I'm 4 minutes and 37 seconds over. But thank you for the information, though.
Thank you.
Dr. Newbrand, I'm going to call you about what you just offered. Frank, I'm going to call you about what you just offered. All right? I still got your number. I hope you hadn't changed it.
Okay, Board Member Russ.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I want to thank Ms. Watson for coming to talk to us about what you're doing at Woodlawn. You do an excellent job, and I think this is a really valuable program, and I just want us to recognize how much of an asset we continue to have by having our largest state university in this city and all the services that they offer to our students. Superintendent Cole, if you could maybe explain a little bit better, as I'm understanding how these programs or certificates generate revenue for the school system. Is there a grant that we receive when these students receive these certifications, or could you explain that?
I'm going to ask Ms. Williams to come up and explain that.
Thank you.
And my boy's coming.
Good evening, Superintendent Cole, board members. So what the state generates is something called CDF funds, Career Development Funds. And what this is this is an additional add-on to our normal MFP, but it kind of goes into a pocket account because what the state does is designate specific course codes that students will get these extra MFP dollars for, and the workforce development oversees that. So it comes up to about $241 per student that's enrolled in a class. Previously, the state had released an approved course for CDF funds list, and all of these LSU pathway courses were included on it. And that was 23, 24. Then the state said that they were going to redefine everything because, you know, the state is changing all of the expectations. And all of these career development courses, the state expects students to earn industry-based credentials in. So what the state did is they told us they were going to change it, and then they kind of paused and they said they're going to leave it the same for 24, 25. So it's the same course codes. All of those LSU courses, except for maybe one or two, were on this list. So like Dr. Nurembergner said, they're about $50 per head for a student to take these courses that we have to pay LSU. So if we're making $241 and we're paying $50, you know, we're still able to buy the materials and supplies needed to facilitate. It's a great deal, okay? And then the issue is that the state has been changing what qualifies as CDF because now they expect a student to have this tied to an IBC. So we've been in talks with LSU about this because this is going to cause a dilemma. Many of these courses are going to be temporarily probably removed because they have been hustling to rewrite curriculums to include IBC obtainment within the ones that they don't already have. Many of them they do have. Like our teachers go in the summer, they get trained, they have the opportunity to add things like Autodesk Inventor, which is an advanced state credential. But you know, all of this is changing with the new formula. Everything, we're going to be living in a new reality next year. But with this, there are some shifts. So we have to be very careful about what courses we offer next year because the funding that was available for us to be able to pay for these things may not be as readily available for all courses because on top of that $50 that we pay LSU, let's say the student is in another course and they're taking an IBC. These IBC costs can range anywhere from $50 to $350, depending on what that IBC is. And that is the money that we use to purchase materials and supplies, improve facilities for our career and tech ed classrooms, pay for the IBCs, and support the pathway, the college and career pathways at each of our schools. So we're kind of in a flux. We're waiting on the state to release the document. I don't want to tell you anything that I don't know, but I do want you to be aware of all of these changes coming down. With that being said, the STEM pathways that he's talking about, let me see if I can remember off the top of my head. There's a STEM pre-healthcare, which is veterinary biomedical. There's STEM computing and cybersecurity. There's STEM pre-engineering. And there's STEM digital emergent media. All right, gotta check on that one, all right? So these 4 pathways are only offered at Liberty because they were built for Liberty. It was the purpose of that magnet school. And the other school is Woodlawn High School. And they get the seals. They're the only 2 high schools that earn these seals. I think altogether there are about 45 seals they earned last year, which isn't a lot, but it is meaningful. While we don't get any SPS credit for these seals, it is something that the students can be very proud of, and it does come from a prestigious university, LSU, in our backyard. So we're very proud of it. We want to support that. Now, each of our schools has college and career pathways that we support, and I'm just going to leave you with this. We can be good and offer everything, or we can offer a few things and be great.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, you answered my question. So if I understand this correctly, for every student that enrolls, we are receiving dollars back that pay for that enrollment and allow us to invest back into those programs.
if they're on the state-approved CDF list.
Right,
Yes, sir.
at least for this school year.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
thank
and we
you.
did. We paid all of our LSU bills. We're also able to pay to have our teachers trained in the summer, and that training is very robust, and we get a lot of positive feedback from our teachers that attend that.
Thank you. Okay, I support the item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amber, thank you for remembering everything I told you last night about this item.
Thank you. Board Member Martin.
Thank you. I just wanted to state for the record, because this involves my day job employer, LSU, I'm going to recuse myself on this matter.
Thank you. Board Member Lannis.
Move to approve the item.
So, seconded by Mr. Rust. Are there any other board comments? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct the vote?
Please vote. Board members, I apologize. We're on the wrong item. So I'm going to clear that vote. I got ahead of myself.
Bear with us, the gravity is very heavy in here today, and we're just not
Please vote.
getting that so well.
The motion carries.
Thank you. We move to item E2, Grant Real-Time Early Access to Literacy, REAL. Consideration of a request for the acceptance of the Real-Time Early Access to Literacy, REAL, grant and approval of the related budget in the amount of $192,750 to provide effective literacy, tutoring, training, and support in related matters. And is there any presentation? Okay. We'll now go to public comment, and we have Ms. Storm Matthews.
Sorry, trying to get my baby his certification here. Okay, the real-time tutoring. I just, with any grant, I want to ask what will be required of us to accept this money. I'm not opposed to it by any means, just what is required of us once we accept it. And also reading the proposed budget on board docs was riveting.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So Dr. Bethley can speak to the budget, but in terms of the requirements, the Real-Time Early Access to Literacy Grant is the 1.0 version of high dosage tutoring. This is a grant that was received during the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, and the LDOE received a no-cost extension. The difference is that it could be utilized for after-school programming where the high-dosage tutoring can't, and EBR is qualified as a provider. So we saw it as an opportunity to accept these dollars to support literacy tutoring after school, and it's going to be utilized for our label schools, our schools with interventions. So we've divided the funds across those label schools to provide after-school literacy tutoring. Additional questions? Okay.
Board Member Lannis.
And I'm just going to second what Ms. Ellis just said. As someone who actually operates and functions inside of the tutoring space, most specifically high dosage tutoring, what you find for most schools, most school leaders, is that they want to have a program that's so robust that they can actually use after school, because not every student has the ability or the time to use it throughout school, which is good that we do high dosage tutoring, but this is something that we definitely need to do so we can catch kids after school. And it works in a multifaceted ways. One, when you talk about students and the things they get into when they leave school. Two, when you come back to what Ms. Edwards just said about interventions that you need for a more structured time after school. It just puts us in a better light to be able to get those students caught up to speed. Thank you.
Board Member Rust.
Thank you. I want to agree with what Mr. Lannis said, how important it is to be able to offer these kind of interventions after school. A lot of kids that need these interventions are at sometimes receiving other services during the day. But further, if they have to get pulled to receive interventions, a lot of the time what happens in elementary level is it's coming during ancillary times. So they're missing out on some other part of instruction during the day. Kids don't have just some kind of free gap that you can just pull them out for intervention and not miss something. So they're getting more access to quality instruction during the school day, and then get the opportunity to get this tutoring after school. So I'm really excited about that. My only question is, I guess, what are the guidelines or the requirements for teachers that will offer the intervention? Are they required to be a literacy or reading specialist?
It just requires that they are employed by an approved provider.
Okay.
So EBR
So
is an approved provider,
Okay.
so we're going to be able to utilize our staff.
Okay.
Now, beyond that, we, require that they're trained in the programs that we use as EBR parish for literacy. So, but in terms of the grant, it just requires that they're employed with the approved provider.
Okay, great. I would only ask superintendent, if possible, to ensure that the employees that are going to offer this have completed the state mandated science of reading training that I know a lot of them have been in for multiple years because we opted for a longer term program. But I would hope that we have some fully trained staff that offer this intervention. Thanks.
To answer your question, yes. The grant does require that the tutors are trained in the science of learning.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? I will now entertain a motion. Motion by Board Member Lewis, second by Board Member Sule. Any final comments from any other board members? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a vote?
Please vote. The motion carries.
Thank you. Next is E3, Academic Distinction Fund. Consideration of a request for the acceptance of the Academic Distinction Fund, ADF, grant in the amount of $15,000 to build a playhouse at South Downs Pre-K Center. And I would like to add that that is a handicap accessible playhouse that will be built at South Downs. Public comments, Ms. Storm Matthews.
I absolutely love that our students will work on a project-based giving to their community and further enriching their skills and embedding their purpose by building this for the students at South Downs. Again, though, I do ask, what are the asks that ADF needs from us for this? But 100% am for this grant, accepting this grant.
Thank you. I have another card from Darrell Dorsey. Mr. Dorsey?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Darrell Dorsey. I'm just here to say thank you, Mr. Cole, Mr. Goday. Thank you, sir. Mr. Russ, thank you. I appreciate you all for responding to my email and showing up and showing out and being united to help our kids. And I just appreciate it, and I want to say thank you. We see you. I wish more parents would have came out, but I appreciate it, and I know most of them do. But thank you all very much, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. There are no current board comments on this item. No online comments. Any board members would like to speak on this item? Motion made by Board Member Martin, second by Board Member Sule. Any other closing comments? Madam Secretary, would you please conduct the vote?
Please vote.
While that is tallying, I would like to say that since Southdowns in my district and visiting that district, that was one of the main things that the principal asked for, was that they had some new playground equipment, but much of their playground equipment was not handicapped accessible. And so this is very welcomed and will be a very appreciated addition.
And the motion carries.
Thank you. Next, item 4, professional services contract, K-12 Insights. Consideration of a request for the approval of a professional services contract between East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and K-12 Insights in the amount of $190,000 to provide a cloud-based platform to enhance customer service. And that's from Ms. Edwards. Is Ms. Edwards here? Oh. I'm sorry. I think it would be appropriate just for this one, just to give a brief overview of what this is.
Okay,
Thank
good
you.
afternoon, everyone.
Ms. Griffin, I love you. Be brief.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin.
School board members and Superintendent Cole, good to be with you all this evening. My name is Tanya Chapman Griffin, an enthusiastic employee of EBR Schools for almost 20 years. I am excited to represent this initiative for customer service, and I also have with me here 2 wonderful guests, representation from K-12 Insights. They're can present and also answer questions regarding this particular software. It is an AI chat box software called Let's Talk. We have here Ms. Hillary Robbins, and also Erica Trammell came in as well. So I'd like to introduce Ms. Hillary Robbins. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, be brief.
Good evening, board. Good evening, Superintendent Cole. Thank you for your time. I am going to be brief here. Really what this is going to entail today here is that this is a customer service program that is really going to help streamline communications in your school district. It directly aligns with your strategic plan to really streamline operations and give your community members a voice. With this, what we see here is that there's many different opportunities on the school district for you to really welcome and streamline operations and modernize operations. So providing multiple different opportunities for students, staff, and stakeholders to submit their thoughts and really their communications to be in one streamlined spot. You'll see here that we do partner with over 500 districts, but strategically partner with many of our Council of the Great City Schools districts as well. And with this, what you're going to see here is that a lot of our school districts have really mastered our outbound communications. So we have many different tools here that focus on pushing out emails, texts, but what gets messy is whenever we turn that megaphone around and we really want to listen to our stakeholders. And so it often looks like what you see here on my screen, where it's a tangled web, where it is siloed communications that we don't really have a pulse on who has been the last person to talk and who's been the last person to get that community member or that stakeholder a response. So what our solution will do here is streamline all of that. And so not only will it help focus on our external communications, but our internal stakeholders as well too, really making a focus on no matter what method that they are reaching out to us, we will have a way to be able to really have a pulse of this. And so this is just a quick snapshot of what you might be able to see upon launch of where it's going to have an easy to find access point. Like Ms. Griffin said, what you're going to be able to see not only with this Contact Us, but you'll be able to also provide equitable access points. So not only will it be able to be in English, but it's going to be in multiple different languages as well, that your stakeholders will be able to submit a message on their time frame. It can be 24/7 with our use of our AI generative chatbot and answer any of your frequently asked questions. So as you can see here, we can take any really inquiry point from text messages to online chatbot to online form to your mobile phone and really give your community the access that they need and making sure that it's equitable. Just a quick snapshot on the back end. As district leaders, what they're going to be able to see is a 30,000-foot view of all of the different communications that are happening within the district. And so from here, you're able to really focus on response times, making sure that you're able to give that stakeholder a timely response, making sure that we're also measuring customer service and customer satisfaction. So this is also going to increase response times, but also give us a way to really see how our community is feeling in real time and be able to measure and have a pulse of that measurement. The last thing that I'll just call out here is one of the big things that it will also help highlight and provide efficiencies for is critical responses. So anything that is mentioned of critical or sensitive nature, it will highlight and escalate and bring in the right team members here to make sure that we have the right teams there to be able to handle it in a more timely manner. I'll close out here that really what we are really focusing on here in our phased rollout plan is the first departments is going to be the superintendent, transportation, HR, really those central office, making sure that we are streamlining those departments first. And once we get a chance to really roll out with those core departments that are getting the high volume, then we'll roll out into additional departments and then eventually at the schools. We've seen success at the schools as well too. All right, I'll pause here and see if there's any questions.
Thank you very, very much for being very concise. I know that was a difficult task. Oh, no, first we have to go to public comments, and the first one up is Storm Matthews.
When I read this memo, I was extremely excited. You say customer service and EBR, and people will start to jump for joy because pretty much anything is an improvement. Like, bring it on. Now, I do have a couple of questions. The presentation was great, but I do still have a couple of questions. Having special needs kids, the automated talk to the phone thing, I get a different look at that. So just a couple of questions. When you're calling in, if there's a lot of background noise, is that going to be where it doesn't understand what the actual person that's talking is saying? Because sometimes I have to just be able to press the button because it doesn't understand me because my kid won't shut up in the background. Or sometimes, like if you know exactly which one you're going to press, but is it the situation where you just want to scream operator and throw the phone, or is that just me that does that? No? Okay, maybe so. And I was really excited to see that it is going to push out to the schools as well, because poor Bel Air, we've been trying to change the phone system because it still says, now I love my Angela Jones, but it still says Principal Angela Jones. We're on 2 different principals now since it said that. So we can't figure out how to change it. So anyways, I'm very excited about this and learning about how it's going to work, but I do have those couple of questions about it.
Thank you. Next is Dr. Finney.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation since now it's more clear than from the description in the agenda what the proposal is. I have a couple serious concerns. Artificial intelligence doesn't replace actual intelligence. And when I call one of my various service providers and I get a robot, I get very, very annoyed because they usually misunderstand my questions and give me ridiculous responses. So a very rapid, incorrect or incomplete or rude response from a computer would actually be counterproductive. So I hope it's a great system, but even if it is a great system, you need to have a backup opportunity for people to talk to actual people, because I think that's where the disconnect is. If this becomes a computerized district, you're going to lose people. Human connection is important. Computers are great for what computers are great at, and hearing people is something that I don't think computers do very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, would you like to give just a very brief response?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Absolutely, AI is a concern here, but the AI piece, what happens here is that it will provide your source of documents and answer the questions. If it's not successful on the first or second time, then it will automatically connect you with a live human and get you in touch with the human touch that you need. So this is the AI piece is to help with efficiency and help you answer and self-source your answers, but you will always get in touch with a human. On the piece about the phones, same thing. As you're calling in, you're going to get a live human that we are going to connect you with from the EBR staff. And again, if you are the type that likes to have an operator, you can press 1 to talk to a live human, and it will capture those conversations.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we'll go to Board Member Rust.
Thank you. Great presentation. Really highlights where the need is that we have in our school system. Couple questions about
when you hit it.
Implementation. Is there any, under the contract that's proposed, is there any limit to the number of internal users or school sites or any kind of, I suppose, limitations to what this contract would cover?
No, sir. The way that our contract is funded is per pupil funding, and so there's no limitations to schools or users. We're not charging. That's not the way our pricing model is structured.
Okay. That was my next question, is like how the pricing is derived, because you know, if let's say that we approved this and we rolled it out and it worked great, I would want to know, because it looks like this is just for a 1-year contract.
That's correct.
How would we know what the pricing would be in the future? And so is that standard, your pricing model is per pupil?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I'll also add that this year is going to be a higher cost because there's a one-time implementation fee. Year 2 would be at the $160.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
So a couple questions for Soup. Standard questions I'm going to ask about every contract that I've promised to ask. How are we going to measure the success if this contract was approved?
Well, we're going to work with K-12 Insights to develop surveys for our families, and then use those surveys to determine the satisfaction and the use of the system and the overall customer service that we're providing.
Great. I would love to see this tied to some measurables or some KPIs that we can look at when we, say, come back next year, if we were to approve this and say, okay, we've decreased call volume, we've performed surveys. So I would ask, you know, if you can come, if this goes to a regular board meeting, if you can come back with some suggestions on how we can measure that, that would be great.
Absolutely.
And I think she answered my other question. So last question I'll ask, low-hanging fruit. Could this help us in our communication around transportation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Priority number 1, when we met with K-12 Insights and they asked the pain points, I said transportation was one of our biggest pain points, and they said there's some things we can do around transportation to tailor response specifically from that department. So absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Lewis.
Okay, Mike, you don't short me on my time now. No, you know, I believe I could have come down there and made this presentation. I have been a fan of K-12 Insights for at least 10 years. When I was a parental engagement person, I would borrow things from K-12 Insight. if you've ever ridden in an Uber or a Lyft or any of these car services, whenever you get off the phone with K-12 Insights, you're going to be able to rate the service. It's going to, if I call HR or call transportation, then it's going to record what time that call came in, what was my response time, who I spoke to, and what was the resolve. We'll know that instantly. Because if you ever tried to dial in a school, I mean, I've been on the other end of that phone call, well, I talked to so-and-so, I talked to so-and-so, I talked to so-and-so, and they got 3 different answers. K-12 Insights will be a game changer for our customer service. Guaranteed. It will be a game changer. We will know right away if someone called HR and they didn't hear back from 2 or 3 days. We'll know who took the call. Am I right, Ms. Cole? Who took the call, how long they were on the phone with them, and did they resolve the issue? Can't beat it. And you can give them like 5 stars. I mean, you're going to be able to rate the person you on the phone with. Right. So if I'm someone that answers the phone right here and I think my job is mundane, you know, you walk by and you go, hey, great job on the phone today. I'm telling you, it's a great product and it's long overdue.
3 minutes left.
Thank you, Board Member Lewis, and just for the public, none of us get a commission on this contract. Any other board comments? I'm ready to entertain Mr. Martin, I'm
I just
sorry.
want to note that I don't think I have ever heard Coach speak enthusiastically in favor of a contract where we're paying East Baton Rouge School Board money for. So, with that, I move approval.
Motion by Board Member Martin. Do I have a second? Mr. Lewis. Board Member Lewis is a second. Thank you. Any other board comments? Seeing none, Madam Secretary.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we move to item 5, professional service contract, Bailey Education Group, LLC. Consideration of request for the approval of a professional services contract between the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and Bailey Education Group, LLC, in the amount of $107,800 to provide professional development and coaching sessions for special education teachers and administrators. Funding source, the redesign grant. I have no public comments in the box and no online comments, so we'll move to the board. Any comments from the board? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. Mr. Ballou, Board Member Ballou. Mr. Lewis, would you like, let's get a second and we'll come back to you. Second by Board Member Lannis. Additional board comments, Mr. Lewis.
Patrick, I may not be as quite as enthusiastic on this one, okay? But I'd just like to know, can anyone tell me the percentage of the student body that in these named schools that will be classified as special ed? Do we have any idea of the percentage of students in the named schools?
Dr. Harris is coming.
Dr. Harris, okay. Dr. Harris was sitting down in her chair back there, looked like she was trying to hide. I didn't see it.
Good evening, Superintendent Cole, board members. Dr. Harris was not trying to hide.
Okay.
However, we have roughly over about 4,500 to 5,000, and maybe more than that, students with disabilities in the district. I cannot give you exact numbers on the schools involved with this contract, which would be Claiborne, Crestworth, Capitol Middle, and Park Forest Middle. But I can get that information to you.
Okay. Next question. Will this professional development include accountability measures to ensure that instructors, school leaders, and EDs are monitoring and supporting the staff to make sure that 504s and IEPs accommodations are provided in a timely fashion?
Actually, we have ongoing monitoring to make sure those things are happening in our schools now, Mr. Lewis. And with the Bailey Education contract, what that will do is supplement the work that Lassard is doing in those CIR and UIR schools. We specifically identified the 4 because we feel that they're the most in need. And so the monitoring will come through Bailey going in and providing that modeling and side-by-side coaching and the instructional review, which they will go in and look at the special education program, look at the instructional strategies, co-teaching, those types of things that are being employed to teach the students. And so they would have a debrief with the principal and district staff so that they would inform us of any recommendations that could be rendered based upon those observations.
Now, I know there's 3 sides to every story, but you would not believe the phone calls that you get from parents with IEP and 504 concerns. I'll just put it like that, concerns. And we're up against Mardi Gras, spring break, all those things are gonna be happening. We're in test prep now. So when will this professional development, when will we have time for this professional development to take place? I mean, we're almost at the end of the year.
We are. The professional development, well, the contract will start in March. And right now we have our curriculum and instructional team that's working hard to identify those dates for PD. And right now what we're looking at is PD may have to be offered after school for some teachers to come in and for Bailey to work with those teachers, as well as on any PD days that we may have this semester.
It's 107, might as well say $108,000.
Mm-hmm.
How long have these funds been available? Were they available July 1 when our fiscal year started?
These are redesigned funds, and Dr. Bethley can answer that.
Hi, these funds will be available till June 30th.
Yeah, but how long have they been available?
Oh, they were
These
awarded.
funds.
They were awarded to us in early October.
And so early October, and we're at mid-February, and we're just starting to spend this money. I'm just thinking this is something that would have been great in early November.
Yeah, so we had a number of vendors that we had to converse with, and so the team decided to go with this particular group.
And that's a lot of money for a couple months, and we're up against test prep, spring break, Mardi Gras. I hope it's successful, but I would really like to see some results or some data or some KPIs or however you're going to use to measure this, because the one place we do not want to be is on television with special ed.
Yes, sir.
Or going to court with special ed.
We're going to execute that. And while I have the mic, I wanted to say to Mr. Russ, I was signing professional leave form for the science of learning, but to go back, it's the science of reading that all the teachers for the real grant have to be trained in. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
Any other comments from the board?
Looking good, Pastor Coates.
I will entertain a motion. No, Mr. Board Member Martin with the motion. I have a second. Did? Oh, yes, Mr. Baloo did. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, my mistake. Thank you. Any other board comments? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a vote?
Please vote. motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have item 7, RFP E-rate selection. Consideration of request to accept the RFP committee recommendation and to authorize,
Need item 6.
sorry, didn't have my glasses on. Heavy gravity tonight. Item 6, professional services contract, Amplify Education. Consideration of request for the approval of professional services contract between the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and Amplify Education Incorporated in the amount of $288,400 to provide coaching for teachers on science resources in CIR and UIR schools. Funding source redesign. I have no cards, and I believe we have no public comments. So we will move to comments from the board. Being that we have no particular comments from the board, I will entertain a motion. Board Member Martin, motion and by a second by Board Member Soleil. Board Member Rust.
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the memo on this item. I understand what Amplify does. In the commitment on the memo, it says increase the average performance of students participating in Leap Science 2025. Do we have like a benchmark that we're shooting here, like an actual KPI, or are we just looking for any gain?
Well, to answer your question honestly, we're looking for any gains that we have with the redesign grant based on the way it came to us, and understanding the work they're going to do with the teachers. It was hard to set a baseline for the students based on when it came in. Looking at where the students performed last year, we hoping that they reach their actual individual growth target based on the support they get from this grant with the teachers. So the KPI is actually the growth target for the individual students, and all of those KPIs are different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any more comments from the board? Madam Secretary, can you call for a vote?
Please vote. The motion carries.
Thank you. The next item, item 7, is consideration of a request to accept the RFP committee recommendation and to authorize the superintendent and staff to negotiate and execute a contract between East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and Lockstep Group, DBA Transformix, to provide E-rate qualified services and equipment as specified in the related request for proposals.
We have no comment cards and no comments online. So from here, we will go to the board. Any comments from any board members? I will entertain a motion. So moved by Board Member Lannis, seconded by Board Member Rust. Any additional board comments? Is that for this item, ma'am? Okay. Seeing no additional comments, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct the vote?
Please vote. The motion carries.
Thank you. We will go now to item 8, school year 25-26 school year calendar. Consideration of a request for the approval of the 2025-2026 school year calendar. Superintendent, would you have any comments to make before we go? Or?
We have a presentation by Ms. Leventino, and I'll make a few comments after. a brief presentation by Ms. Levantino. A brief presentation.
Good evening, Board President Stewart, Vice President Gode, Superintendent Cole, and members of the board. And yes, Mr. Cole, we have a brief presentation today. All right, so here is the proposed 25-26 school year calendar. Just a reminder for the members of the board and the public that the calendars are created in accordance with the policies set forth by Bessie, and it is the responsibility of the local education agency, which is the school district in this case, to ensure that the calendar that we put forth follows all of those policies. So just a quick reminder of what some of those policies are in terms of parameters that we have to work around when building that calendar. The first one is State Statute 333 in Bulletin 741. And just to summarize what that is in bold, we have the 63,720 minutes that have to be a part of the full academic year, and these are for instructional minutes only. Then we have State Statute 2314, also in Bulletin 741, and there's that highlighted portion that says we shall provide a minimum of 7,965 instructional minutes to award a full Carnegie unit to our high school and some middle school students that are taking high school credit courses. Of course, EBR operates under a semesterized fashion, so we also have the calculations for that 3,983 minutes when we're awarding those half credit units. And so that's under the same statute. The last thing is that 3703, which defines for you what instructional time is, since the other two are based on the fact that we have to offer a certain amount of instructional time. So just a note, instructional time does not include lunch, recess, and what we call passing periods or change of classes or parent-teacher conference days or our teacher in-service days. Those do not count as instructional time. So they would not be applied in that 63,720, nor with the 7,965. All right, so here's just a graphic for those that are familiar with one particular structure opposed to the other. If you are elementary folks, you're looking at that 63,720. That's for the full calendar. And then inside of that, for secondary schools, there's a special note for you there. We offer 8 classes in our secondary schools, and each one of those classes that is awarding a high school credit must meet that 7,965 minutes per class. And so again, if there are 8 of them, each one of the 8, whether it's an A day or a B day, because we're on those rotations, must meet that time limit. And that's what this picture is hoping to depict for you in a semesterized fashion. The other things is frequently asked questions that we get, are there some other parameters, other policies? Well, there's the local policies. With our salary schedule, we are approved for 9-month employees to work 182 days. So as we know, when we talk about instructional time, we know that we also pay teachers on our teacher in-service days, so they count towards the 182, but they do not count towards the instructional minutes that students earn. So that has to be within that time. And that's what you're having in question number 2 there. And the last piece of it is, how do the mentioned policies pertain to the creation of the school year calendar, or the bell schedule in particular? The number of instructional days, of course, are going to impact the number of instructional minutes. So again, if we have 182 days that we're paying our 9-month staff to be in service for our students teaching, the time that we do professional development in service does not count towards those instructional minutes. So essentially the A days and B days that we have left are going to be what the 182 minus the in-service days, that's what's left for instruction. And that's all that's telling us in that pace. And so again, going into the bell schedule piece, we had what was the recent impact there. Again, this particular draft has 84 full instructional days and 3 half instructional days in semester 1. So we're looking at, believe 0.5. So there's 43 A days and 42.5 B days. So when we're starting to count those things out, dividing it out by the 8 that we have to have, we're looking at about 94-minute classes. So that's kind of what drives your bell schedule in that case, in those secondary situations only. All right, so here is a draft of the calendar. Just a quick note, I'm sure it's already posted for the public. As you can see, The one thing that we want to remind folks of is when you see those color-coded days, the green days are holidays for those staff members, which means those are not instructional and they are also not a part of the 182. They're not paid days. Our blue days indicate when the students return. They do count as instructional days, obviously, because the kids are on campus and they are a part of the 182 paid days for teachers. We really just make them blue so that they stand out for families so you can see when your students go back to school. And the red days are teacher-only days. Those are our teacher in-service days. They do not count towards instructional minutes, but they do count towards the 182 days that teachers are in service. The yellow days are our partial days, which means the teacher is here for the full day, because as we know, students get out early, but it is partially an instructional day, so it's half the time there for the instructional period. The full day, though, is a teacher day because afterwards teachers are either calling parents, doing teacher in-services, or other things that need to get done throughout that time. All right, so we did have a calendar committee work through this draft of the calendar and provide feedback. There were 33 people in attendance. It was July 28th. We appreciate their time and efforts. Out of the 33 people that we had come, they represented 29 different school communities. So they gave us some feedback on the original draft that we presented to them. There were some questions about one day in particular. So we were able to go back and work through some pieces for that so that we can kind of come to this calendar to where we can get to a place of agreement. And that concludes our very brief presentation.
Thank you.
Tried.
And I would suggest you stay nearby.
Of course.
Public comments. Let's see here. This is item 8. So, Ms. Starr Matthews.
This is the most balanced calendar that we've seen in years. So I want to start with that. It'll leave us at the 94-minute classes like we are this year, so it won't be a change in the minutes of periods. It's 43 A days, 43 B days, second semester 43 A days, the first semester, and 42 and a half B days second semester. So it's really, really balanced on both sides. You do end on an A day in December and start on an A day in second semester. So that's a little weird, but I mean, it's fine, it's whatever. The only thing that teachers have a question about is why was October break pushed back a week? That gives us 10 weeks between August and October break, and 4 weeks between October break and Thanksgiving. And so they do have a question about that. There may be a reason for it, and so it's not a end-all be-all, but that is their major complaint. But other than that, they really like this calendar, and their approval was a lot. I did have some people asking about some board members asking about the differences in the half-days. So the half-days in May and December are really important to middle and high school teachers because we grade then. So the kids are taking their finals at the end of the year, and then we're grading in the afternoon. So those days are very important to middle and high school teachers. The half days in September and March are for elementary school teachers. They are doing the parental conferences and things like that, whereas middle and high school teachers do parental conferences after school and meet with parents at that time, whereas elementary teachers only have about 25 kids, and I believe that they're supposed to meet with either all of their kids' parents or the majority of. That might be a better Adam question. I'm not elementary. And we have like 150 kids, so we meet with any parents that want to meet with us or that we can get in, but not all of them. But other than that thing with October break, it's a really good calendar. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Felicia Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Valencia Johnson. I'm the president of the East Baton Rouge Parish Association of Educators. As a member of this calendar committee and a teacher in the district, there was a real concerted effort to come together and get a consensus on the calendar. Community input was a key factor in some changes that were actually made to the original calendar that was put forth. So I think it was a really good collaborative effort, and that most educators as well as parents are in favor of this calendar, especially those who were actually on the committee. Their input was very good. We had some concerns about the days of coming back and ending school, and to Storm's concern that there was some concern in the group about the start of fall break. But the consensus in the room was like a week is not going to, the week difference is not going to make a big difference. And so even though we are on the 9-week schedule, you can still have your conference, and if you need to conference with parents after that 9-week. So it wasn't a big difference. So other than that, I support the calendar.
Thank you. Seeing no online comments and no other public comments, we will now go to the board. We'll go to the board.
I just want to thank the committee for doing the work. I misunderstood some requests when I was having conversations with board members early on in my tenure. There was a request that we start having these discussions earlier, and so I asked the committee to bring this to us a little bit earlier, and I misunderstand some of the requests. I think going forward, we're going to talk about doing some things a little bit differently in terms of how we create the calendar and get more board input. So I just want to make that mention that I misunderstood that you all wanted it earlier and have this discussion earlier. Normally the calendar comes a little bit later as a result of waiting for the state to release the testing days. And so we asked the committee to start earlier so we could bring it to the board earlier so we would have more time to finish out. So I misunderstood. So next year, if approved tonight, we'll engage the board a little bit differently and have some conversation before we have the committee, or even have a board member serve on the committee, or request that a board member do so, or a number of board members. Less than 5, though.
And I want to just say thank you for that, because that was the feedback that board leadership, based off of some of our colleagues, wanted incorporated. And so the only change is that we ask that, a board member or two be incorporated into that committee. But thank you. We appreciate that, and we appreciate the adjustments you've made within this week as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Ballou.
Just real quick, Ms. Matthews mentioned that the October break was a week later than it typically is, and I was just curious why that decision was made.
Again, I've been using this word a lot this week, transparent. I made that recommendation just looking at the month, having talked to a few teachers, and a few of them suggested, why don't we split the month evenly as it relates to fall break and have about 15 days before and about 15 days after. And I didn't see where it was a huge challenge in terms of teachers getting burnt out. And so half the month, they get a break and then work the rest of the month and then go into November and the holiday season. So I made that recommendation just based on having discussion with some teachers, that's all.
Thank you. Board Member Martin.
Thank you. I want to commend the committee for the work. I think in the 2 years I've been on here, I've not heard Ms. Matthews supportive of a calendar proposal yet. So that's clearly very good work. On more seriously, and I think my colleague, Mr. Rust, will have a few more comments along this line. It's, from my perspective, there are a lot of resource allocation decisions which inherently go into some of the givens that this starts out with. For example, that 9-month teachers will work 182 days, that will have X number of snow days, hurricane days. This year we needed snow days, right? What have you, that are fundamentally strategic policy decisions that should be made by this board, that a committee of teachers and administrators are not going to feel empowered to say, hey, what if we had 190 days and pay teachers appropriately? I'm not, don't come storm the table. And when as a board can we engage in those kind of conversations? And so it's not simply a matter of having a board member on the committee, which will be helpful, and I think that'll give us all good feedback, but also having, just like with the budget, we set, here are our priorities. How is this calendar, just like the budget, address those priorities? So that's the kind of shift I would like to see, coming up next year for the academic calendar. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Lannis. I'm sorry, Rust.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Martin, for stating that really well. That's been a sentiment of mine is, I don't want to be chest deep in deciding, are we just moving a holiday, or are we doing this or that? I just want to see us as a board be able to make strategic decisions, and our academic calendar it goes directly into our budget. We got to have one before the other. And so I had some conversations with Mr. Cole and board leadership about that, and I think we're all in agreement that we can do some things to support that. And I want to thank Mr. Cole for bringing this to us early, because hey, we do get time to give some feedback, so I appreciate that. And I want to show appreciation to the staff for putting this together. I know it's a lot of work. Thank you to those who served on the committee to help fill in this. So a couple of things that I would like the superintendent to explore and provide some feedback or recommendations on are two things in particular. As a parent, thinking about the number of days that kids are released early, my family can accommodate that, and we can make those adjustments. I think about families that can't, families that can't leave work, that have to depend on others when their kids are released early from school, that don't receive aftercare on those days, kids that perhaps go home to an empty home, or God forbid are just on the street when they could be at school. And so I want to make sure that our academic calendar is serving kids first in that regard. And I know that it's really important for teachers to have time for in-service, for professional development, to do parent-teacher conferences, all the things that they have to do their job. But what I would like to know is, in other urban districts, how are those problems solved? Do they solve it the same way? Is it a different way of resource allocation? Again, like Mr. Martin mentioned, if we are constraining ourselves by the number of days that we're paying our teachers and then trying to stuff everything into that box, is that something that as a board that we need to look at, especially as we're going into our budget year? So I would like to see those number of half days reduced or eliminated. I know it's not a tit for tat to take 2 half days and make it a whole day, because that's not exactly how it works. But when we just looked at this last week and we talked about reducing some of those half days and turning them into full days, I'm thinking about how much instruction really happens in a 4-hour day of school. Very little. My kids come home and told me, and this is not ratting out anybody in particular, but they're not doing intense instruction on those days. They're doing other enriching activities, and those teachers figure it out. But kids in EBR need every bit of instruction that they can get. And once a month, if we're losing a day of instruction because we have to accommodate how we are not allowing our teachers to do their jobs, I think we're selling ourselves short. So I would like to see some solutions or feedback from that. I also would like us to explore what it would look like to send kids to school on Ash Wednesday. Now, if you're Catholic, don't come after me. But when I was in school and I was an EBR student, my friends that were Catholic went to church in the morning and then they came to school. I was at school and they all had the cross on their forehead. It's a religious holiday. We can excuse it as an absence if they have to be absent. I really don't understand why we are accommodating for one specific religious belief and not a lot of others. Even though, look, we have a lot of Catholic families in East Baton Rouge Parish. But again, that is a day that I think kids should be at school. And I could get started on Mardi Gras Day, but I'm not going to touch that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Russ. Next, Board Member Lewis. I'm sorry, Board Member Lannis.
That's my other twin. Thank you,
I just can't get you.
Mr. President. Question, are we still a part of the Council of Great City Schools? If we are still a part of that council, is this piggybacking on something that Board Member Russ said, maybe we can reach out to them and ask them, could they put together a collection of best practices in terms of calendar selection and helping to alleviate some of the problems? Because you have so many districts around the country, urban districts the same size as ours or larger, who go through the same processes. Besides that, I want to say I move on this item to approve.
Thank you. I am next in the list. Just a couple of comments, and I kind of want to echo some of what Board Member Russ said in looking at the items. You know, it is very disruptive for half days for families. It's hard in our transportation department, and not a lot of instruction gets done. And so, you know, I don't want days where it's a half day and the kids watch movies. It's not what the kids are doing. We have we have a lot of our students who need the educational time. And again, I'm more than willing to think about going to 190 days or whatever. But in particular, I would ask that you guys look at the end of May, where we have 3 half days in a row. I think that for the students and the families, I just ask that you consider, I mean, this is up to you guys, but consider making 2 of those days full days and let the kids go a day before, and that day could be a day where teachers have to grade papers and do the kind of stuff like that, as opposed to having 3 half days in a row, have 2 full days and an off day. That's teachers only. Or something like that to reduce the number of half days that we have in the system, because it's very disruptive to our families and to our students. So I'm going to vote to approve this, but I would ask, we still have a regular meeting coming up. I'd ask for you to consider those. And there may be very good reasons why they're not. I'm not trying to dictate anything at all, but seeing 3 half days in a row when our kids need the instructional time. I know it's after LEAP test. I know it's after that, but still, they still need the instructional time. And people can push their final exams back a day or 2 or 3 to make that happen if we had those extra days in there. Would you like to comment? I see you shaking your... You don't have to if you're not prepared to.
No, I was, to your point, I think Ms. Matthews said it, those days that you're looking at the end of May, those are preceding the last day of school. The teachers and the students end on the same day, so those are exam days for us. So at that point, you have at the secondary level, there's about 53 minutes of class time in each one of those. In a traditional class, of course, there's 94. So there's still time to do a little bit more, but those are specifically allocated for exams.
Okay.
And then the other 2 that you see, as I don't remember who mentioned it at this point now, but the 17th and the 20th in March, those are falling behind those 9-week periods to the benefit of our elementary teachers who do have the 45 minutes only in most cases of teacher planning time to be able to try to get things going, but they also have to call those parents, and that's a mandate in some cases.
So let me ask a really dumb question.
Yes, sir.
If the last 3 days of May are for exams in the secondary schools, why are elementary schools getting out for a half day?
Well, I think you answered that one yourself. It's an operational concern there.
But the buses are going to run later anyway.
Yes, sir. That's something that we can probably look at. Again, that's probably a larger decision than me here today.
I understand, but you know, I'm trying to break out of the box of this is the way we've always done it.
Absolutely.
On the thing. So, you know, if there's a valid reason for high school, we don't have to have the elementary schools on exactly what the high school is doing, because their buses run after high school anyway.
Yes, sir. I think it's probably just an operational thing that someone would have to look at in terms of efficiencies.
Thank you. Would you just please look at that and come back to us?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Let's see. Seeing no other comments from the board. Oh, I thought you'd already gone once. I'm sorry.
To point of information, we're not limited to just going once in our current format anymore. I think we're just limited to time.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. But I want to provide a substitute motion because I don't want to approve this item as is. I do want to see if we have a possibility of an adjusted academic calendar. So I would like to send this to the regular board meeting without recommendation.
So a motion by Board Member Russ to send this without recommendation. Do I have a second?
On the personal privilege, you
Second.
can offer a friendly, make it easier.
Yeah, how would you like to? It's 6 of one, half dozen of another, right?
What was the item that was the sub again?
I would just
Send it
like to
without
send it to the
recommendation.
regular board meeting
Okay.
without recommendation.
If the second doesn't mind, I think it was you, Board Member Martin, we can move it without, we can just move it to, change the motion to moving it to, move the item without recommendation.
So just to make sure with my parliamentarian, we have a friendly amendment to,
Yeah, so Lannis made the original motion with a second by Martin to send it for approval. Mr. Rust made a substitute motion to send without recommendation. Mr. Lannis, I believe, is saying he would like to amend his own motion.
Correct.
To send without
Friendly amendment.
recommendation if Mr. Martin's in.
And I would accept using Mr. Russ's words.
okay, so we're good?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to double check. Thank you very much. Are there any other comments from the board on this item? And just for clarity, the motion we will be voting on is to send this item to the regular board meeting without recommendation. Madam Secretary, would you please conduct the vote?
Please vote. The motion carries.
Thank you. We now move to item number 9, demolition of Banks Elementary. Consideration of request for the authorization for staff to advertise, accept the low bid, meeting specifications, and make the award of contract for demolition of Banks Elementary School as specified in a plan to improve facilities, technology, discipline, and compensation in the East Baton Rouge Parish School System, known as the plan, as revised through February 22nd, 2018, or reject any and all bids for just cause in accordance with the Louisiana Public Bid Law. We have public comment on the item from Ms. Storm Matthews.
I just realized when President Gode was reading that into the record, I may have misread it, so I need to go back and read it again. But I wanted to say that I do agree with Banks coming down, but also wanted to say please add Broadmoor Middle. It's been shuttered for longer as well. And also, want to put in there, let's sell the land because, yay, we could put a park on it. Or we can offer it to Breck to put a park on, yay. But Nathan, that's for you to take to the, Breck Commission. There we go. But the question I was going to ask, and when he read it in, I'm realizing maybe I read it wrong when he said about the put it out for bid, because I saw the number I saw on there is higher than the normal estimate. So I was going to ask why it's higher than the normal estimate for a demolition since it's an elementary school. But if we're putting it out for bid, maybe I read it incorrectly. I apologize.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. James Finney.
Thank you. First, an observation, the last campus that the board voted to demolish was straight east on the same street. You know, 2 campuses, that's a trend of disinvesting in North Baton Rouge. Once you smash a building and throw it away, you can't get it back. And you don't have necessarily a clear plan for the land. Also, $500,000 is a lot of money, so I would suggest that the administration ask the construction managers, if we spent 400 and whatever thousand to improve the building, could we make it safe and functional for some other use other than an elementary school? Perhaps an early child care center, perhaps a satellite office for city parish government, perhaps a BREC community center. There are multiple choices, not limited to fixing it up as a brand new elementary school or driving a bulldozer through it and having yet another empty property in North Baton Rouge. So since I don't think there's an immediate need to do anything right away, it might be worth exploring some possibilities. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no online comments. Any comments from the board? Mr. Lannis.
Thank you, Vice President. First, I want to say thank you to board leadership and to superintendent and staff for bringing this item so expediently. While I do understand the sentiments of what was just discussed, I will also say that a lot of these buildings need to come down. They have been inside of communities, depressed communities, for far too long. When I think about Eden Park, that school's been closed for over 10 years and it's just dilapidating, falling apart. When I think about Glen Oaks Middle School and what happened there, you have homeless people living inside of the building, which caused the building to catch a fire. What do you do to the community that lives around those facilities, the kids that have to play around those facilities? And while we can come up with some mixed arrangement of ideas or assortments of how we come up with some kind of cooperative endeavor agreement, time is not of the essence because you have entirely too many people that are living around these types of environments. And while some believe that tearing these buildings down may not be as advantageous for us, I would say I would much rather tear them down than to have a kid surrounded by that, living in that type of space, or having residents live in those types of spaces, because also you're not even talking about how it brings down property values inside of those areas. What I can honestly say is the buildings you see in North Baton Rouge, you would not see in any other part of our parish. And we have to have an honest discussion about that. And it's because the people that live inside of those areas will not settle for it. So you can't expect people who live inside of those areas now to simply just settle for that, and they're going to continue to sit there for years and years and years. White Hills has already merged with Brownsfield. That building needs to be torn down. When we went to that school, when the principal came to us and said, please come look at this building, there was graffiti all over the building. People had broken inside of the building, broken glasses everywhere, and then we picked up all of the extended costs. Nobody else did, but the district did, which caused our budget to also go down. It's a much cheaper fix, and I would say, and opt to say, if you talk to community folk, they will say the same thing. They would much rather have those buildings come down inside of those neighborhoods and come up with something that is much more beneficial for the people who live in those areas, rather than just sitting those buildings stand there and nothing happens. The time is now. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Lannis. Next, Board President Stewart.
Thank you. And I just want to agree with some of the same sentiments that Board Member Lannis just spoke about in regards to having to make the tough decisions as far as what are we doing with some of our facilities that have been empty and in non-usage for a long period of time. And I just want to say that I actually attended Banks Elementary. I attended Banks Head Start and Banks Elementary, and had some time where I grew up in that area, and so I still have family and friends in that area. And so to the point that Mr. Lannis made, that the neighbors and the community, it's an eyesore. It's an eyesore, it's a hazard, it's a liability, and of course, to Ms. Matthews' point, we are looking at Broadmoor as well. So we are looking at our facilities. That is a part of our plan, and so we want our communities to be safe. And if we have things and buildings and we need to address that. And so Banks Elementary, I'm happy that we have now are addressing the Banks Elementary site. Just more recently, there were trespassers on the building just as recently as last night. And I found that information out. And so, of course, ultimately, I think we're making the right decision. I want to commend the community persons that have been vested into trying to push us into addressing Banks Elementary. And so I want, on behalf of my colleague that's not here tonight, which covers that district, Ms. Carla Powell-Lewis, she's elated, she's ecstatic about doing some positive things in that area, and she's also happy, and I want to speak on her behalf as well, to let the community know that we are addressing the issues in that community, and we are trying to do some positive things for the students. And so we have plans, and we have positive things to look forward to, and so I think this is a great, awesome thing for District 3, and I think it's time. And so that was all of my comments.
Thank you, Board President. Board Member Nathan Russ.
Thank you, Vice President. Couple questions just in terms of funding source for this project. Is this coming from the general fund, or is there a certain fund that we would utilize to provide this?
If I'm not mistaken, it's coming from the tax plan.
This is tax plan. Okay, that was my question, because I know that there was a certain amount of money set aside through the tax plan for demolition. So if we were about to pay this out of the general fund, I'm like, why aren't we using the tax plan money for this?
And this is actually a named project in the tax plan. It's a
It
named-
is, okay.
Yes, sir.
That's what I wasn't sure, because I know that there was one, and okay, that clears that up. I'm in support of this. We have way too many vacant, empty sites that are a blight and honestly cost us a lot of money. And based on the memo, the diligence has been done to determine that this is not a building that can be easily put back into service. So thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Russ. Board Member Lewis.
Tearing that building down could also spur reinvestment in North Baton Rouge. Broadmoor, same thing goes for Broadmoor. Taking Broadmoor down could also spur reinvestment in the city. Because there's one thing that man is not making any more of, and that's dirt. The bricks ain't worth it. It's the land that's valuable. They ain't making no more dirt, making plenty bricks. It may not be good English, but it's good sense.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Board Member Lewis. Board Member Martin, your turn to follow that.
Thank you, thank you. Can't talk well about dirt, but in my district, when we closed an elementary school, the old Jefferson Terrace, just a few years back, you know what they did? They immediately tore down the old Jefferson Terrace, right? That's what you do, because the city as a whole has a problem with blight. Right? And it's embarrassing that the East Baton Rouge School Board is contributing to that problem, right? And so we need to fix that. Now, as to are there other uses? Well, two points. One, buildings have a useful life. They just do. They're not, we don't build buildings, we're not building the Parthenon here to educate our children in, right? We build buildings that are going to have a life that may be 30 years, 50 years, some of them 100 years. They're not getting to 100 years without full-scale renovations and, in the middle of that. But, and a lot of buildings that were built around the time this was built were not built well, particularly in that part of town because of what was going on in Baton Rouge at the time these buildings were built, right? And so the building was not, is not conducive to any other use at this point. And we can sit and hope that maybe somebody might eke some value out of it. But frankly, it would probably cost us nearly as much to gut renovate this and make it suitable for inhabitants by people as it would to just build a new building on the site. And in fact, Ms. Powell-Lewis and I last year in leadership looked and worked with community leaders, had at least one community meeting looking at whether there might be some alternative uses that we could find for Banks Elementary. And nobody was able to come to us with a plan saying, hey, I want to take $5 million and invest it in this building to make it worthwhile. So I very much, President Stewart and Vice President Gode, appreciate your leadership this month in bringing this to us, and I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've entered the queue. I echo many of the comments. But I want to take a little bit different tact in this because I believe many of these properties are community assets, and that we as a board are sitting on these community assets that really need to be returned back to the community and put to good community use. And I can pick one in particular that's always struck me as the old Westdale Middle site, which is right there off of Plank Road. It's really a nice site, and we've been cutting grass on it for 20 years. And that kind of property could have some really good use. So one of the things that I am personally committed to, and I've already talked with the superintendent about, as we come up with our facility plan and work through these, part of that is going to be a policy of how we go about handling property that is deemed surplus. And so how do we do it? How do we go about looking at maybe some public-private partnerships? How do we go about evaluating it? But having a clear, concrete timeline that at some point in time, buildings get torn down and the property sold. Because I know for a long time, the rule of this parish, of this school district was, we don't sell property. And I think that's wrong, because we're sitting on assets that are community assets that need to be returned back to the community. So I fully support this, but I'll go further and say I'm going to do my best to make sure we have a clear outlined policy for what do we do with surplus buildings and surplus land, and with definite timelines. Because even in my district, we closed Arlington a while back, and Arlington is sitting there just south of LSU, and it was in deplorable shape when it was in use, and it's even worse today. And that building will never be rehabilitated, and it needs to be torn down, and we need to do something with the land, because we will never put a school right at the entrance, with the entrance going over a very active railroad track. It's a horrible place for a school. So we need to set ourselves some policy and things like that to put ourselves some definite timelines to do it. So I fully support this also. And with that, do we have a motion? Nope. I will entertain a motion. Motion by Board Member Lewis, second by Board Member Martin. Any additional board comment? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct the vote?
Please vote. The motion carries.
Thank you. Next, item E10, litigation. Consideration of a request for the approval of the recommendation from Gwen Shamlin, General Counsel, East Baton Rouge Parish School Board, in the matter of Nina Dillon versus EBR Parish School Board and Vincent Woodard, docket number 735131, Division O, 19th Judicial District Court of East Baton Rouge Parish, and to provide for related matters. There's a possibility an executive session could be called on this matter. Would any board member like, or do we have to go to public comment first? Okay. Is there any public comment on this matter? Seeing none, are there any board comments on this matter? May I have a motion? Mr. Ballou, Board Member Ballou, makes the motion to approve. Seconded by Board Member Rust. Any other comments? Seeing none, Madam Secretary?
Please vote. Motion carries.
Thank you. Item F, announcement of meetings. February 6th, a regular meeting will be held on February 6th, 2020. Regular meeting will be held on February 20th, 2025 at 5 p.m. in the central office boardroom. The committee of the whole meeting to be held on March 13th, 2025 at 5 p.m. in the Central Office Boardroom. Board Member Lewis?
We are adjourned.